Hey, what's up everybody? Jake here and welcome to the hobby. What I've noticed when it comes to collecting is that a little bit of information can go a really long way. And I'm going to share some tips today that is actually kind of unspoken. These are things that other collectors don't really want you to know about. Some collectors might say, oh, these are obvious things that every collector should know about. But yes, there are brand new collectors out here right now today that can't spot the difference between a basic fake and a real card. And I'm going to show some basic fakes on the screen. If you can't tell these cards are fake, this video is absolutely for you. I'm going to share you guys some tips on today's video that will absolutely help you find some amazing deals down the line. I've used every single one of these tips to get amazing deals, cards that are half off or way cheaper, because I have some information on these cards that maybe the seller doesn't. So let me share some information with you guys. The first one, and probably the most basic tip that you need to understand, is the difference between a first edition Pokemon card and a non-first edition Pokemon card. There are first edition cards mainly from the Wizard of the Coast era when it comes to English cards. This is going to be the most common. There are Japanese cards that are first edition after the Wizard of the Coast era, but when it comes to vintage, cards with the first edition stamp are going to be more valuable than their non-first edition counterpart. A great example of the difference between the first edition stamp and the non-first edition stamp is going to be the Neo Lugia. An unlimited version of the Lugia, which is a non-first edition copy, will range around $100 for an ungraded copy, and a first edition version of the Neo Lugia will go for around $500. That's 5 times the value for a first edition version. And I have seen people price these cards incorrectly. It happens all the times at card shows, at garage sales, at game stores, where whoever is doing the pricing, they may be looking up TCG player or market value of these cards on Card Market and picking the non-first edition version and pricing the Neo Lugia at $100, and that's a fantastic deal. So that little bit of information can go a long way. So that's our very first example. The second example that I would like to use is look for cards that have recently spiked in value. Now, this is going to be the kind of knowledge that really gets you ahead of the game. For examples, we have cards that double or triple in value within the period of a week or two. If you look, for example, back in March and April, a card like the Umbreon V from Evolving Skies went from being a $50 card to a $200 card within the span of a week or two. If some places like an eBay store or a trading card shop still has the card price at $50, then fantastic. That's a great value deal for you. So a little bit of information can go a long way. If the seller doesn't know what they're selling, well, so be it. That's a good deal for you. This is a very competitive game, and if you think I'm being a little bit cutthroat, maybe if you want to be the nice guy to let them know and say, hey, you got a $50 card here, but it's really worth $200, you can be that person. I've done that for some people who I think can really learn something from that lesson as well. So it's going to be up to you, but it doesn't hurt for you to pick up that card if they're willing to sell it for that underrated price. So cards do spike up for as much as 300% all the time within a week or two, depending on whatever news come out. Perhaps a new set is being printed, perhaps a new card is going to be competitive. Old cards that are not competitively viable can become competitively viable in the TCG, and their prices spike all the time. It's just going to depend, but that little bit of arbitrage can really help you out. The next example is one that I've personally used all the time. This one happens all the time, and that is the difference between a holo card and a non-holo card. And this is, again, in the vintage era mainly, but in general, in the vintage era, there are non-holo and holo versions of a lot of different major chase cards. And the difference in value between the holo version and the non-holo version can be extremely dramatic. And I've seen many a times a holo Pokemon card from a very rare set, which is a chase pull, being priced as the non-holo counterpart. So this happens all the time, and I'm going to give you a great example, which is the Skyridge Umbreon. This card is absolutely gorgeous. The non-holo version of it, which is still a great rare Pokemon card to pick up from a Skyridge booster pack, is currently going for right around $100. But if you can find the holo version of the Umbreon from Skyridge it is going for $750. That's a 700% price climb and difference between the holo version and the non-holo version of the same card from the exact same set. They look very similar and it can be confusing. I see people price this card or cards similar to it incorrectly on eBay all the time. This happens all the time where they have a holo Umbreon and they accidentally price it for $100 when it's really worth like $500 or $600. This happens more often than you guys might think, and you can scoop it up for a fantastic deal if they don't know what they currently have in their hand. So definitely be on the lookout. There is a huge difference between holo and non-holo, and this is mainly in the Wizard of the Coast era where there are copies of these cards, but the little bit of difference and a little bit of knowledge can go a long way. The next trick is one that I've used a lot at places like trading card conventions and physical locations like a card shop or a garage sale. And this one's really fun because it's a little bit more tricky, but like I said, a little bit of knowledge can really help you out, and that is searching through the bulk. A lot of people will be surprised about the kind of treasures that you can find by searching through bulks, and I'm sure the comment section, if you guys have any idea if you've ever find a really cool card inside of a bulk pile, it's such fun because this is truly finding treasure, and this happens all the time. What ends up happening is a card is truly bulk. It's a cheap card. Perhaps it was a bulk card in 2015 and the owner put it inside of the bulk pile and has left it there for the past 10 years. But the crazy thing is with collectibles, time changes everything. A card from 10 years ago may be incredibly valuable now. So a lot of times when I'm searching through bulk piles, I'll see some older cards that are really worth $10, $20 that they're currently selling for $1, and I'll pick those up all day long. So don't be discouraged and look through the bulk pile. You can find some serious treasure there. Don't look at just the display case, don't look at just what they have on the shelf. There's some real hidden gems in the bulk pile if you just know what you're looking for. It does take a little bit of knowledge. Perhaps you're looking for vintage cards. Perhaps you're using some of the tips from earlier on in this video, like trying to find first edition cards or holo cards inside of the bulk area. Can definitely work in your favor, but just keep your eyes open because there's all kinds of different scenarios. I've seen scenarios where cards like full art trainer cards were priced at $1, but they recently spiked up to 20 or 30 bucks. So once again, using some of the earlier tips from this video, and I find those cards in the bulk section or in the $1 slab section or whatever it is, and I'll pick those out, and that's a fantastic deal for me. So don't worry about looking at just the expensive cards. There are some amazing hidden gems in the bulk piles. And my final tip, and this one is going to be one of the more obvious ones, but if you are a new collector, this one, well, I've used it quite often, and it's surprising how often this will slip by, and that is the difference between a Shadowless base set and a non-Shadowless unlimited base set. These two cards get mixed up all the time. Now, if you're brand new and you're looking at these two cards and you can't tell the difference between Shadowless and the unlimited version, I'm gonna tell you, it's really basic. It's just the black shadow on the edge border of the Pokemon card. That's the major difference between a Shadowless and non-Shadowless card. It's a very easy thing to miss if you're new to collecting, but the amount of times I've seen a Shadowless Blastoise or a Shadowless Charizard being priced as an unlimited version because they don't see the first edition stamp, right? A lot of people know to look for the first edition stamp, which is why it's one of the earlier tips in today's video. But the difference in a Shadowless card and unlimited version is much more difficult to spot if you're inexperienced with Pokemon card collecting. And it does happen quite often where I see a card shop or a trade show or a garage sale where they accidentally price the Shadowless Pokemon card as an unlimited version, and the difference in price between these two cards are really staggering. For example, a base set Blastoise, a decent copy, might just be $50 for the unlimited version, but for the Shadowless version of Blastoise, which is the second print run, it came out right after first edition and right before unlimited, is going for upwards of $300 to $400 for around the same condition. So same condition, $50 card to a $400 card. Very similar scenario to other cards from today's video as examples. That's like a 700 or 800% price spike. If you can pick out the difference between these cards, and it happens enough that I'm making a video about it. So check out all the different information because there's plenty more. There's all kinds of little intricacy when it comes to Pokemon card collecting. And I'm not saying you have to know everything. You don't have to know everything, but you just have to know enough to be dangerous. And that's why I tell people to become an expert in a certain field. Know every single Gyarados card. Know every single vintage card. Be very specialized in XY or Sword and Shield. Just know your field of expertise and know what you're looking for. And you can really weaponize that and be dangerous when it comes to Pokemon card collecting. And you end up spending $100 to get $1,000 of value of cards if you go to the right card show and find the right hidden gems. It happens quite often. So definitely look for these tips. I hope this is useful if you're a new collector because these are little things that trip people up all the time. Let me know if any of these scenarios have happened to you where you were able to find some really great deals because the seller just didn't know what they had. So let me know what your thoughts are. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.